Welcome to the Tiger's Den. Shabbat Shalom to you, and a Gadol Shabbat Shalom, because today is, according to the Jewish lunar calendar, the festival of Passover. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at some of the customs and the traditions surrounding it. I mean, you may be wondering, where did Rabbi Simon disappear? Is he still alive? Is he being raptured? But I'm still here. Still alive. Baruch Hashem, Master Yehoshua. Still alive. Still very well. And some of you asked the question, do you believe in the Messiah? The answer is yes. I haven't been raptured up. I do believe in the Messiah, Yehoshua. And so therefore, with that in mind, we want to look at the Feast of Passover, what it actually means. There are a number of traditions, as you know, attached to it. Some of you out there are celebrating the Feast of Passover based on the lunar calendar. However, as you may know, or some of you may not know, that there was no such thing as a lunar calendar. We actually celebrated the feast based on the sunrise solar calendar. Based on that, our festival starts every year, April 3rd, based on the solar calendar. Our day starts sunrise, not sunset. These are later inventions that occurred much later in history. If you go back to history and you check, you'll find out that these things occurred much later than what is proposed. Now, talking about the festival of Passover, you know, all this rigmarole about putting a plate out and having these little symbols on the plate and the egg, and you know, you want to put this little water in there with the salty water, and you want to put other items on there that you've been taught by, I don't know, Messianic camps, Ashkenazi Judaism, I don't know, whoever. You know, you want to get those holy shizbos, you know, you want to get the holiness in you, and you want to touch that, and oh, suddenly you're holy, you know, all that kind of nonsense. It's all nonsense. Total nonsense. It is not required. You will be shocked to see what the Torah actually says and what is actually required to do. It's so simple. You know, Passover can be a very stressful time for some families. You know, they have to get everything together, and they have to go to this hotel and pay $200 fees and get in the door, and then be sitting there all night and eat this meal and listen to the Agadah, the story, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. That's all it is, blah, 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 because it is not commanded. As I tell you, it is total and utter tradition. Total, utter tradition. There is no background in it regarding the Torah. And let me pick up the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls, which is a nice little translation. Now is in its Dalit edition, the 7th edition. It is available on Amazon. I will encourage you to purchase this. This is the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls Tanakh. I will put a link below the video so you can click on it and purchase it for yourselves if you decide to learn what actually happened and not what you're taught out there, both in churches and synagogues. You know, the BS that you get is, my goodness, it's tremendous. The stress is tremendous. So if you really wanted to follow God's way, God's commandments, then this Tanakh and the Brit HaChadashah, the New Testament, which can be purchased as a separate book, will help you tremendously. Tremendously will help you. So let's look at it. Now if we go to Exodus chapter 12, verse 8, we are told, then they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with matzah, unleavened bread. That should be, read unleavened, read that roti, chapati. Just like the Indians, the Pakistanis, the Afghanistanis, the Persians make it, just like the Mexicans make the tortillas, the wraps. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about some fancy square bread, you know, Cracker Jack bread that most of you are used to out there. It's not what it's talking about. You've been so hoodwinked and so brainwashed, you're going to have a paradigm shift to understand what God requires, what is being taught out there. There's challah. They will tell you, the challah over here, they will tell you that, oh, this is Cracker Jack bread that we ate. No, Israelites did not eat Cracker Jack bread, you know, with those holes punched in it that you purchase from your, you know, from your Holy Shizbal store down the road. You know, maybe down London you might pick it up from, I don't know, Stamford Hill, Golders Green, or maybe New York. But this is not what's required. All that is required, you take a dough, you take some dough, flour, F-L-O-U-R, wheat flour, if you like, and you can do it with some other type of flour as well. You take the wheat flour and you make your dough enough for you to eat. You then put it on a, you can buy these iron skillets for about, I believe, less than $20 from Amazon. These cast iron ones, they're really nice, and you can make your chapati, your roti, right on there, and it'll be totally unleavened and totally soft and beautiful. You make it yourself. You don't need to pay tons of money to buy it from the store. Make it yourself, and it's really, really great. That's all you need. All you need are 3 items. You can get the unleavened bread, you can make it yourself, and you need 2 other items. One item, you need a token piece of lamb, a steak of lamb. You can buy that from any store out there. Don't need to go to a Jewish store. Get it from a Muslim store. It is perfectly Torah kosher, 100%, even from a Muslim store. Even from a Christian store is 100% kosher. But the Jews won't tell you that. They'll tell you that, no, you have to be glad kosher. No, you don't. Torah kosher is when a person bleeds an animal to the ground, takes the blood out. That is according to Torah. There is no such thing as kosher, by the way. That's an invented word. It's an invented word, and it doesn't even exist in the text of Leviticus 11 to say, oh, you got to eat kosher. It doesn't say that. The word that is correct, that I came up with, according to the Torah, is permissible. What is permissible according to the Torah? And what is permissible is what is bled to the ground. Anybody, doesn't matter what religion he belongs to, does not matter one little bit. Anybody out there who believes in God perhaps, and he slaughters an animal and he then bleeds that animal to the ground, that animal is technically permissible. If it's a sheep, if it's a cow, if it's a chicken, it's permissible. These ideas that were invented by various religious factions out there to, buy meat from a certain store, these were all to divide you, to conquer you by division, so that you are always confused and never sure. And guess what? Kosher industry out there is a $12+ billion industry. Who do you think is making all that money? So you got to be very careful of what you believe out there. All these so-called messianic teachers, unfortunately, some of them haven't got a clue what they're talking about. Clueless people. If you want to know the truth, what Torah calls permissible, then it is an animal that is permissible and it is bled to the ground. A Muslim can do it in my presence. A Christian can do it in my presence. Even a Hindu can do it in my presence. That is what Torah allows. Torah did not say to us. We have it right here. It did not tell us that you got to treat the stranger as some foreign entity and hate him for that. What is done today under the name of religion? Hatred. Oh, he's a Hindu, hate him. He's a Muslim, hate him. He's somebody else, he's a Christian, hate him. That's what religions promote. Religions out there, unfortunately, have an ulterior agenda. And a hatred and intolerance is promoted in religions. Most religions today, you can go to Islamic radicals, they promote intolerance of Christians and Jews. You can go to Orthodox Jews, they promote intolerance of Christians and Muslims. It's the same all over. Come on, let's grow up. Let's see what God requires from us. So only 3 items that you require to make your Passover holy. Unleavened bread that you can make yourself. A steak that you can put as a token on your plate. No fancy plate. No need to spend $200 and go out there and get a silver plate. Just an ordinary tray. That will do it. And then on top of that, all you require is a bitter herb. What's a bitter herb? Well, you tell me. Did God tell us what's a bitter herb? He didn't. So you define it yourself. That's the freedom of Torah. You define it. If to you bitter herbs is a piece of lettuce, great. If it's coriander, great. If it's parsley, great. If it's horseradish, no problem. So what's the problem? It's very easy. When you actually look at what God requires versus what religion requires, it's two different things. And this storytelling, oh, you got to tell this story and this happened. No, we got to remember this throughout our generations, for us, for our families. And yes, you can do it in a congregation setting. But there is none of this, a little boy stands up and tell a story. All these traditions are invented traditions. Judaism invented them. Christianity follows them like a dog. You know, blind dog, that is, total blind dog follows the same old traditions that have no merit. No merit whatsoever. So let's not even waste our time with that. Let's look at what Yahweh requires from us, not what religion requires from us. Religion will tell you many things that are not true. Are you going to follow religion? Are you going to follow the God of Israel, what He desires from you? And who is the God of Israel? Well, if you're a believer, you know who the God of Israel is. Revealed in Master Yahushua. Call him Yeshua, call him Jesus of Nazareth, call him Santa Claus if you like. I don't care. That's your choice. But for me, the Master Yahushua is it. Passover lamb is fulfilled in him. Luke chapter 22, verses 19 onwards, it speaks about his blood ratifying the covenant, the new covenant. And without that new covenant, there is nothing. Everything in the Torah is about covenants. If you have the covenant, you have the salvation. If you don't have the covenant, you have jack all, nothing. So think about it. Think about where we're going with this. Think about what is required by God. You know, these things that are made up by traditions, by fanciful religions out there to deceive you, to cheat you out of your freedom, out of the joys that you're supposed to have. Think, when a family has to go to a Passover meal, and you know, the wife has to get ready, the kids have to get ready, they have to drive certain distance to get there, and they have to spend a lot of money. How much stress that creates. And you know, all this little shebang, you know, about, well, we're going to do it this way, we're going to have this table, we're going to have egg on the plate, we're going to have this on the plate. No, none of that. None of that is required. You heard it from the Kohen's mouth. None of it is required. All you're required to do, all, is what I told you, 3 items. And the rest of the week, 7 days of Passover, you're to eat what we call traditionally, because our ancestors were Indian, by the way, what we traditionally call roti, and that's what the Bible tells us, roti, chapati. It doesn't tell us to buy crackers and wafers and this and that, no. Bad translations, my friends. And if you are my students, and if you've been following me all this time, you know how much I am against bad translations. And a lot of people promote bad translations out there. And they will push you into one religion or into another religion. I don't put you into any religion. Our way of living is a way of life, not a religion. We live this. This is our way of life. This is how we live. It doesn't change the fact, Israelites, that you're not Israel because you don't live right. Well, you got to live right. Israelites, and by the way, you're not Africans. You know, you don't account yourself for Africans. I want to go back to Africa. No. Israelites came out of Africa at one point in history. They didn't come out of Africa, period. In other words, from the beginning, I think you need to go back to Abraham. You need to look where his ancestors came from. They came from India, the other side of Euphrates, which Yehoshua ben Nun, Joshua, he tells us that. I suggest you go study Joshua a little bit. Might help you. But having said that, as we can see from here, my goodness, where does it say, oh, I've got to put my table, I've got to now put a boiled egg on there, I've got to put salty water, and I've got to have all these cracker breads, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. No, it doesn't say that, does it? It doesn't say that. So let's not make it difficult. Let's not do what God does not require us to do. Let's make our life simple, let's make our life easy, and let's make our families happy with what God requires, so there'll be blessings in our houses, there'll be peace, there'll be joy. And the joy only comes when you're in the covenant. When you have the Master Yahushua in your life, you have the covenant, you will have the joy, my friends, my brothers and sisters out there. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're Snow White. I don't care if you are pink. But if you are following the God of Israel, that's what matters. Now, what matters is your character. Yes, our people came from a certain location. Yes, they had certain features. It's not doubting that at all. I'm not doubting that the majority of the Negroes out there that are our people, not doubting that for 1 second. But I will tell you this, that we have a mixture of colors today. We're mixed in many nations. So let us not restrict other people. Let us not be intolerant to Gentiles who want to serve the God of Israel, who are called by His name Yahweh. They're called by that name. We can't stop that. And we must help them. They're our brothers and sisters as well. So remove the intolerances from you, and you will do well, my friends. So with that, I'm going to close on this, because I think the message is what counts. How we live it is what counts, not what religious group you belong to. So with that, I'd like to say a very happy festival. But I also like to make note that many people don't do the lunar calendar, which is fine. April 3rd is around the corner. That is a solar calendar. That is when our festival begins. If you really want to do the actual thing. I mean, if you want to do a tradition, then there are many Passovers. One begins yesterday, last night. Then there'll be probably another beginning tomorrow. Then there'll be probably others that begin other days of the month. So what do you want? Do you want tradition, or do you want facts on the ground? We deal with facts. We don't deal with tradition. So I'll encourage you to follow facts on the ground. Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh, Master Yehoshua. I encourage you to be strong, chazak. May the Master Yehoshua bless you all and take care of you. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Shalom, Mishpacha.